Hi everyone, today I'm going to share with you my experience with this new budget air cooler coming from Montech known as the NX400. And thanks to them to have provided this unit for me to share with everyone. At the meantime, I do apologize that they have provided this unit but I've not released the content on their official release date, and that is with a good cause. With this said, let's begin. Starting off with the structure of the air cooler. As you can see, it's made out of 52 fin stack, and the fans are pretty good, pretty sturdy. These are known as the E28 fans, which I'll talk about it later. And at the top, you have this cover, which is in white. And for the fins at the back, see, and the locking mechanism. And this is the base with 4 copper heat sink. And the measurement of this unit, starting off from here to here, is at 74 mm, and the width of it is at 120, and as for the height is 156 mm. And these fans are clipped on to the heat sink. As you can see, there are 2 clips. Now as for the color variant, it comes in black or in white. If you choose to have it black, right, all will be black. If you choose to have white, it will be in white. And there's also another variant or style, same thing, black or white, but with ARGB on the blades. So be it black or white. And at the top, just to show you, see, this is the black variant, this is the white variant. Now as for accessories, these are the accessories that come in the package. They are all labeled nicely. As you can see, these are the spacer and the attached screw, which is meant for the Intel 1700, and it does support 1851, which is the generation 14 and 15. And these are the spacer for AMD or Intel 115X, and it does support 1200 too. And these are the AMD screw-ons for your spacer. The universal Intel and AMD bracket, which you will be using either on the Intel platform or the AMD platform, which I will show you in a short while. The back plate, which is only meant for Intel, and as you can see from the back, right, you can adjust the whole alignment for you to slot to the back of your motherboard. And as mentioned to you, right, it does support 1700 or the 1851, inclusive of the 115X. This is 115X, and this is for the 1700 and the 1851. A bag of thermal paste and the instruction manual. These are the new Montech E28 PWM fans, and I was shocked when I removed off from their respective air cooler. They clip on to the air cooler by this clip. If you are choosing a white fan, right, be it non-ARGB or ARGB, it comes in silver clip. Else, if you choose the black, be it again non-ARGB or ARGB, you will have the black clip. And as mentioned to you, right, when I remove off from their cooler, the feel is very sturdy. It doesn't wobble. And best part is that when I swivel the blade, right, it doesn't wobble. Okay, probably you can see this. I will use this. See, it's aligned properly, and both are of 9 bladers, and these are fluid dynamic bearing. Now besides this, right, the only difference between the non-ARGB and the ARGB are the connectors. For the non-ARGB, you only come with a 4-pin PWM fan connector. Else, for the ARGB, that the ARGB effects is on the blade. Besides the 4-pin PWM connector, it comes with a 3-pin 5V connector to control your ARGB effect. And at the back, right, when you look at the blade, the non-ARGB version does not have a sticker. Else, for the ARGB version, you have the sticker. Now on top of which, right, Montech have upped the game. That's why I say this. As you know that majority of fans out there, right, they will have rubber grommets, or should I say anti-vibration rubber grommets on both sides, on the four corners. Else, this is fantastic. Instead of sticking the pads on the fan, it's of a whole casting. See, this much of rubber on the four corners, right, it will absorb tons of vibration, so the operating rate will be very smooth and the noise will reduce hips, which I will show you later. As mentioned to you, right, this is good. Why? Because if this rubber, anti-rubber grommets, right, are stick on to the fans, right, for prolonged time of usage, right, you will notice that the side will just drop off. Else, this is the whole casting. You don't have to worry about that. And it's aesthetically pleasing. We did say, right, at the side, you have this crest over here and the logo Montech. Same goes to the ARGB version. Nicely done. Now, as for the specs of these fans, they are drawing 12 volt DC and have a current of 0.35 ampere. And besides this, right, the minimum RPM is at 800, the maximum is at 2000. Having the air pressure, or should I say airflow, at 85.09 CFM. And the static pressure is at 3.35 mm H2O. And when it's loading at max, right, speeding at max, the noise will be at 34.17 decibel. Pretty quiet. Which again, I will show you how it sounds like when it, ramp up on the benchmark. Well done. Now, the standard measurements, right, this is of a 120 mm fan. But the thing is that the thickness is at 28 mm, whereby this will channel lots of air. As you can see, these 9 bladers, right, they are scooping and quite close to the brim. So this will scoop tons of air through this channel, which will cause high static pressure, which is good. To mount the air cooler on an Intel platform, by the way, the air cooler support 1151, 1200, 1700 and 1851 socket. And it happened that this is a 1700 socket. Things you need to do, first off, on the air cooler, take out the fans which is clipped to the air cooler. This is meant for you to easily fasten the 2 points over here to your processor. Now, things that you need: the universal bracket, the spacer with the 4 screws. I've taken off from the package, so take note, as this is a 1700 socket, the package will say Intel 1700. Last but not least, the backplate. And starting off, mounting the backplate first. Where you flip to the other side, right, it will tell you all the socket. So having this said, right now I already push out to 1700. See, it labels down here 1700. For the inside is 11.5x. So make sure you push out everything on a 1700 socket. Turn this motherboard over, whereby you have 4 screw holes over here. Align this bracket, the threads, be it this way or this way, it doesn't matter. Now, something for Montech to take note. Hopefully that they will improve on this version whereby they have double-sided tape, so that this back plate, right, will stick to it. If not, if I were to flip, right, this thing will drop off. So once you've done this, right, support the back plate, turn over. Okay, as you can see, if I have to move, right, okay, probably I'll just zoom in. See this? If I don't hold on it, support on it, take a look at the threads, it will just drop off. So you need to support it. Once that's done, right, make use of the universal bracket. Now I'm using one hand, right, so take note. Make sure that this is faced in when you mount it, okay, and not the other way. By the way, if you put it the other way, right, this might block the VRM, or should I say the VRM heatsink. So make sure it's this way. Once this is done, right, okay, in fact the orientation should be this way. Okay, let me just check. See, the orientation is very important. If I were to place it this way, right, your heatsink will be like this, which is wrong. Okay, let me just zoom out. What I'm trying to say is that if your bracket is this way, you'll be mounting this way. See, the fan allocation, right, is wrong. So you should be mounting this way, where the fan is pushing air through the heatsink towards the back. So you got to mount it this way. And again, as I mentioned, this is pointing inwards to the processor. Now you might find it silly, why am I holding on? And to explain this, right, because if I were to let go, right, the backplate would drop. So next thing to do, plug. Okay, let me just put this one side. Plug this spacer. Doesn't matter which direction, as both ends are of the same. Place it to the 4 threads. Once it's done, right, you can plug your universal bracket. And as you can see, right, on the universal bracket, there are holes over here. These 2 holes, not these 2, right? These 2, I'll show you later what they are for. The holes at the top over here. These are meant for Intel. Now, based on the fact that I need to align and to screw on so that I will not drop the back plate, place your mounting screws. Oops. See, clumsy me. Okay, anyway, I'll fiddle with that later. So, plug this in. Make sure that this thread, right, is facing upwards. Screw this in. Okay, I'm just going to tighten this. Hand tighten. I know this is clumsy way, but this is the way, because if I let go, right, as mentioned to you, the back plate will just fall off. Okay, maybe there are better mounting method, but probably you can just do a double-sided tape at the back plate and to tape on the board, so that it's not so troublesome. As you can see over here, I'm actually doing this like this. It's kind of troublesome. Now, next thing is that, let me try to see if I could let go on this. Okay, good. I need to take out the screws. Do bear with me, alright? Okay, this is done. Then you can start mounting the other section. Okay, place it to the slot and to screw it in. Now when you fasten this, right, you don't have to be too tight. You just anchor it till it stops. I often like to do this to have a balance on the bracket, or even I'm mounting the cold plate. It's always this way. So let me have all 4 in first. Once this is done, right, when you screw the screw thread on the bracket itself, that it touches, I mean the screws is touching on the bracket, right, then right now you can tighten. Hand tight, you don't have to force it. Okay, this is done. Next thing to do, clean the processor, apply thermal paste, then you can apply the air cooler. Now for the air cooler, there is this protective tape over here. Remove this. Again, use alcohol, clean it, and to wipe it. Reason being, right, there might be residue. When you remove off this sticky tape on the cold plate, right, there might be residue, so it's best that you clean it. Once that's done, right, as I mentioned, clean the IHS, apply the thermal paste. You can align this 2 board to this. Okay, once you've done that, right, you can tighten. Okay, let me just tighten. Just an illustration. I know some of you might say that, hey Cleo, you have not taken off the sticker, you have not taken, you have not applied thermal paste. It's just an illustration, okay? Now assuming that you have tightened, now do it alternately, alright? If you screw 2 times here, you will screw 2 times over here, so that you have even pressure to your processor. Okay, assuming this is actually done, see, this is how it looks like. And right now, you can place back the fan. Now before you place the fan, right, I would advise you to slot your rams. And as an illustration, I will show you why this cooler is pretty good, as there are no blockage on rams, which I'll show you in a short while. So assuming that you're placing your rams, now to fix the fan with the clip. So make sure you know the orientation. Now with the blade over here, right, this is pushing air over this way, so it's going in this way, so it should be this way. Do not place your fan the other way around, which is this. If you place it this way, right, it's going to draw air this way. So make sure that the blade, I mean the frame over here, right, is facing this way. Place it here aligned to the top, I mean your top fan aligned to this cover over here, and to clip it. And you're using ARGB fans, right? Make sure that this, okay, I placed it wrongly. This cover, right, where you have this opening over here. Now this is transparent, where the ARGB glow, right, you will go through here too. Make sure it's towards the fan and not the other way around, which earlier on, this is the position. This is incorrect. So make sure it's this way. Now, as mentioned to you, right, look at the ram clearance. See, it doesn't block, so you can have taller rams, not an issue. This is a good position on the air cooler. Then followed by the final step is to connect these two connectors. For the ARGB version, you will have two connectors. One which is for the 4-pin PWM to rotate your fans. So this I will clip to the CPU fan 1. Okay, make sure it's CPU fan 1, which I believe is here. Then for this, right, the 3-pin 5V ARGB connect to the 3-pin 5V ARGB header on your motherboard. And to control the effect, make use of your motherboard ARGB program. Mounting on AMD platform is more straightforward as compared to Intel. And this air cooler does support AM4 and AM5, not AM3, alright? Only AM4 and AM5. First thing you need to do is to remove off the fans from the air cooler. This is for you to have easier mounting. As you can see, right, this 2-point, you will need to mount to the processor. If you have the fans in front, right, this board will be blocked. So make sure you remove it. Once you've done this, right, things that you need are the spacer in black, total of 4, and the screws. And do take note when you unpack all this, as it will be labeled. See down here, it will be labeled. It's also meant for 115X and for AMD. And the bag of screws that say AMD. Now, first thing, remove off the original bracket from the socket, which you will need to unscrew. I redone that. Take off the brackets, put this one side. Now let me just zoom in to let you have a closer picture. First thing to do is to place the spacer. Now, there are a total of 4. Take note on the spacer. Okay, at one end, this is saying Intel. On the other end, this is AMD. Make sure you face the wording downwards towards the board. So mount the spacer. Once you have done this, right, next thing to do is your universal bracket. It only can mount in one direction, which is this way and not this way. Okay, so having this point, I mean the bracket point, right, pointing inwards, and make use of the screw holes at the bottom, which is this too, not the top. Okay, the bottom. So with this say, right, with the screws, I will just anchor it. See, this is captive, so do one at a time. Place it to the spacer and to screw in. Okay, I'm just going to adjust this a while. Once you have done one corner, right, now you don't have to tighten it too much, just anchor it. Once the screw stop on the bracket, right, you just let go, because you can, you know, move. So on the other side, again, place this in and the screw it in. Repeat this step as in like to anchor it, not to fasten it, with the other set of brackets. Again, place the screw in. This is captive. Anchor this in. This is a very easy way to mount. And I like how Montech have designed this in a way for AMD. Okay, once this is done, as mentioned to you, right, just anchor it. Once it touches the bracket, stop. Now you know that all are fastened. Next thing to do, hand tight. You don't have to force it. Once this is done, right, apply alcohol on your IHS or processor, clean it. Once that's done, apply thermal paste. Okay, let me just zoom out. On the air cooler itself, the cold plate, make sure you remove off this tape. Okay, apply alcohol, clean it, as sometimes there might be residue based on the sticky tape on the cold plate. Now, this section here is just to show you how I mount it. Okay, don't ask me question whereby, hey Kyo, you have not removed this and you have not applied thermal paste. As mentioned, this is illustration. So assuming that you have the thermal paste and you have removed this, you can align this two bolt to this, the thread. Oh, I forgot to mention, when you mount the universal bracket, right, make sure that these two threads are facing upwards. If it's facing downwards, right, you can't mount the air cooler. So once it's done, right, align this two bolt to this two thread. Okay, still holding on to the air cooler, thread in. Do 2 rounds one side and do 2 rounds on the other side. Once you know that it's in, right, you can start screwing alternately, as in like 2 rounds over here, 2 rounds over here, until you feel that this two bolt, right, can't screw in any further. Don't use force, right, gradually just screw in. So assuming that these are done, next thing to do, before you plug your fan in, plug your rams. Okay, I know there are no blockage at all, but it's just that it's better that you mount your rams in first. Once this is done, right, plug your fans and make sure that if you want the the correct direction is that the air pushing from the front towards the back. So make sure that the blade is facing you and not the fan blade, the frame, right, is facing you. If you do it this way, right, it's incorrect. Okay, the air is going to go this way, so make sure it's pushing this way. And also another thing to take note, that for ARGB air cooler, right, on this unit, make sure that this top here, okay, I'm not too sure if you can see. Okay, let me just push it downwards. Now make sure that this, right, okay, let me just remove this plate. You have this transparent frame over here, or slot. Make sure it's facing towards the fan. Okay, as you're placing the fan over here, only meant for ARGB, right? Because when this go, right, it will go through this window over here, a small slot. Okay, right now I'm just going to place it in, and to show you what's the rest. Align the top of the fan to flush with this top, the cover. Then you can clip on it. Now just to show you, this air cooler is good based on the fact that, take a look, your rams does not hit the fan at all. You can have tall ramps. The final step will be plugging the connectors, which is the 4-pin PWM fan connector and the ARGB 3-pin 5V connector. So have this, right, the fan to the CPU fan 1, which is down here. Let me just push this out. Make sure it's CPU underscore fan, alright, and not other area, because this is the master controller for your air cooler or the liquid AIO. I mean the fan. Next will be the 3-pin 5V ARGB. As I have a header over here, which is 3-pin 5V ARGB, connect it to here, and it's done. And to control the ARGB on the blade itself, right, make use of the motherboard ARGB utility. Now, another thing to take note, when you're handling the when you're mounting this outside the case, which is advisable on a flat mat, please make sure that when you hold the whole motherboard and put it in the case, right, do not hold on this way, okay? See, I'm leaving this. Do not do this, because accident might happen and you might just break. Make sure you support the whole motherboard, okay, and you place it in the case. Now I've fixed up everything up and just gonna do a noise test. As you can see, the heatsink is over here. The fan is blowing air through this direction towards the rear. Now this is my microphone, just to do a mic test. I'll clip it over here. Okay, this is at idle. And I'm just going to run Cinebench. This will be at load. It's going to idle down. I'll just wait for it to go quiet. Now this is at idle. I'm just going to go one more time to let you hear the load. Now, when the system is on idle, I couldn't hear a thing on the fan itself. And when it has load, there are some noise, but it's not very loud. It just gives a subtle hum, if you can hear it properly. Now I'm just going to conduct the thermal test. I'm making use of a 9800X 3D processor on a B850M Montech motherboard with 32GB kit of RAM. No, yeah, correct. And how I conduct is based on the fact that I will show you the original, as in like the original setting, based on the fact that I've done only the EXPO profile on the RAMs, and I'll just show you the temperature. Once that's done, right, I will then set my own PBO limits like the curve optimizer and the curve shaper, and to run the test again, then followed by having, instead of one fan, I have two fans, and you can compare the results by the end of the whole run. For the first test, as mentioned to you, I will not set any PBO2 limits, which is the curve optimizer and the curve shaper. Instead, I'll be triggering only the EXPO profile on my RAMs. These are the system spec. You can pause and have a look. Now, on the test itself, right, I'm making use of R23 from Cinebench to run the load of the processor. And besides this, right, I did not use a discrete graphic card. Instead, I will be stressing the integrated graphic on the processor. As you can see on the background, it's running on Firmark. So during the test itself, right, it will run both Cinebench and Firmark. And to pull the stats, I'm making use of IDA64, where you can see all the stats over here, the temperature, the voltage and such. And right at the top, right, it's just to show you that the configuration, as I mentioned, right, see, no PBO limits. So these are all by default. As you can see over here, no curve optimizer and such. And over this, right, just to show you the stability of the processor on using this AirCooler. And on top of which, it will tell you what is the base clock and the boost clock. So as I run, right, well, this is actually recorded, true enough. And do mind you, alright, I'm actually in a room temperature of 30 to 31 degrees Celsius. So these are the results. So for the first few minutes, right, nothing much drastic happened. Let me pull you to the last 3 minutes, which is this, and take a look at the results. Okay, I will be grabbing all the results over here. As you can see, I've done a chart. Okay, let me just spread out. Okay, so I'm just going to take the readings one by one, starting off with the CPU temperature. As you can see here, default, the CPU temperature is 95 degrees Celsius. Okay, followed by the Mambo, which is the motherboard, which is 52 degrees Celsius. And next will be the VRM, the MOS, which is 53. Now, I will not talk about the overall results till I tested all the benchmark. Then next will be the two DIMMs, which is 42 and 40. Okay, 42 and 40. Oops. The M.2, which is over here, 46 degrees Celsius. Now, for the power consumption, right, it's actually this, which is 128 by default. 128 watt. Now, what is this? In fact, the top where I write 120, right, this is the recommended power drawn on AMD specification page. Okay, and the base clock is 4.7, the boost clock is 5.2. And when I look at the stats over here, right, the base clock is 4.98. So I take it as this is 4.9. Alright, and the boost clock is 5225. So just put, yep, it matches the specs. I'll just put it as 225 gigahertz. Okay, see, it matches the boost clock, and it did push more on the base clock, which is 200. This is by default. As you can see, right, all the PBT, TDC, and EDC over here is the same. The TDC and the EDC. Now, as for the result, let me just pull till the end. Okay, this is the result, which is 31,990. So I'll just take this down. Oops, I punched in the wrong area, which is this. Now, for the next test, I will be triggering PBO limits. In my second test, I have triggered not only the EXPO profile, but these are the settings I've done. Now, for the PPT TDC, I'm taking the default as in like from AMD. Then for the PBO limits, right, I've set the curve optimizer to -20 and the curve shaper with medium frequency at -15, high frequency at -10, and max frequency at -5. Now, if you guys do not understand what is curve shaper, I did a whole series of curve optimization, which you can click on my top right hand corner and it'll take you to that. and there are sections where I talk about the curve shaper. Now, having to say this, right, as I run, okay, as usual, starting there are not much of difference and such. It just, you know, move through. Then once it comes to the last 3 minutes, which is around here, okay, let me just pull to the last 3 minutes. This is where it started to see the results. So with this say, I will just take down the results. So I'm just going to take it over here with the tweaks as you see over here. So starting off with the CPU temperature is 92 degrees Celsius. So it's slightly better. And with the motherboard temperature 50 degrees Celsius going down. The VRM is at 49 degrees Celsius. Then the two dim slot 41 and 40. Right. Then my M.2 is 42 degrees Celsius. See, it dropped in temperature. Now, as for the score, okay, the power drawn right now is 123, around there, which is slightly better. And with the base clock, the base clock and the boost clock is the same. And as you can see, the graph over here is flat. This tells me that the system is stable. 225 gigahertz. Same goes to the other one. And as for the score, it should be better. So let me just pull to the end. Okay, this is the score, which is 23,101. And as usual, as mentioned to you, right, the PBT, PDC, and EDC, they are of the same, which I've not touched. Now, with this said, right, when you look at the overall results, which I'll show you over here. Okay, let me just open up. Now, looking at this result, right, the default itself is having all these readings. Okay, just exclude this, just this. The temperature drop, which is about 3 degrees. The motherboard drop, the VRM drop, the RAMs drop too, inclusive of the M.2. And the power drawn is 223, 5 watts lesser. But the base clock, right, see the drastic jump, which is consistent, and the score is pretty well. Now, I did notice that the temperature is still hovering 92 degrees Celsius and such, which the next step, I'm gonna tune the EDC just by a bit to see how it reacts. As mentioned to you, for this test, the settings are the same as the previous that you've seen. The only thing I've done is on the EDC, I pump it down lower, which you can see on the Ryzen Master 143. Now, as I run, right, as usual, the first few minutes you don't really get to see anything. But when I pump to the last 3 minutes, take a look at this. Okay, this is the last 3 minutes, and again, I'm just gonna do the readings now, which is in red. Okay, I'll start off with the. Okay, let me just put this nicely. I'll start off with the CPU temperature. As you can see, right, the CPU temperature, it went down to 86 degrees Celsius. Okay, just a reminder, my room temperature here is 30 to 31 degrees Celsius without aircon, okay? Though it's actually running on the open bench. I'm from a hot and humid country. As for the motherboard, is 52 degrees Celsius. Right, then for the VRM, it's at 53. Now, for some reason, I don't know why this is pushing up. I guess the system was saying that, the system detected that the processor is, running cooler, so it just pushed. So this is my guess on why the temperature on the rest of the component, right, is heating up. Now, as for the dim slot, 43 and 41, see, it went up. and 41. And as for my M.2, 46 degrees Celsius. And the drawing power is at 114 max. Now, coming to the max and base clock, it's the same. See? The base clock and the boost clock. So I just copy this and to paste it over here. Change the color. Okay, as mentioned to you, I only changed the EDC, the last figure, which is from 180 to 143, and the score is, okay, let me just pull, is this, which is 23,006. Okay, based on the fact that looking at this, right, yeah, indeed it is consistent, but the thing is that as compared to previous, right, that is even better. In fact, it's this. Okay, sorry, see, this was the result they've done on the curve optimizer. I've not changed the ADC, or I mean the EDC itself. Else when I change over here, right, it does perform, but there are dips. And with this said, right, having this, though the wattage is lower, which is so much lower as compared to the, you know, the default, and this, the CPU temperature went down. As mentioned to you, when the system detect that the temperature went down, right, from the processor, right, they will push harder on your motherboard, your VRM, your RAMs and such, which an indication why there are dips over here, is trying to push. Right? So I would say that, okay, you can use this, but it's not very consistent. So this is the only compromise that it will happen. Now, having said this, right, I have a last attempt, which is to, since this is actually a single fan, when you see it, right, since I have two units, right, why not I plug two fans and see what's the result based on the settings which I've done over here. Now, for the last test, PBO settings are the same with the curve optimizer, the EDC, which I pump it down, as you can see over here, to 143, and the curve shaper remains the same. The only difference is that I plug in another fan to the air cooler, and as I run, right, as usual, starting, you don't get to see much action. So when I pull to the last 3 minutes, I'm just going to take down the stats again. This is the last 3 minutes. Right, I'm going to run, and I will write down all the stats before I talk about the overall. So having the last 10, right, which is in white, okay, the CPU temperature 86 degrees Celsius, right, with the motherboard at 50 degrees Celsius. Then the VRM, one is 41, the other one is 39. Oops. Next will be the, oops, I've set this incorrectly. I've forgotten the MOSFET. Okay, let me just redo. VRM here is 47 degrees Celsius. Then with the RAMs, which is 41, 39. And this is 39. How come it's not moving? So sorry about this. I should let it move. Okay. Double check since it's moving right now. Temperature, CPU 86. The Mambo 50 degrees Celsius, that's correct. The chipset, or should I say the VRM, 47. And the two RAMs over here, 41 and 39, that's right. And the M.2, which is 42 degrees Celsius. And the drawing wattage is 113 watt. 112 to 113. Then as for the base and the boost, I believe is the same. I hate this. I can't move this. Okay, let me just open up. Did it got stuck? No, okay. The bass and the boost clock both are the same. Okay, this is actually in white. Oops. Okay, that's better. And as mentioned, all these are the same, but this is of dual fan. Okay, this is single, or should I say the original. Now for the scores over here, let me just drag to the end. Or 2-3. Okay, margin of error 200. Okay, 23k and 4. Now on this results that you see over here, okay, let me just do it nicely. As you can see, right, when I place two fans, things start to change. The rest of the CPU temperature remains the same. Okay, it's pulling, as I have explained to you based on the earlier run, right? The motherboard is pushing towards that frequency to hold at this temperature, which is this frequency over here. That's why it's warming up. When I plug dual fans, right, it reacts. See, it's cooler. And I was right, based on the fact that power drawn, right, is not so much. Because when power drawn is up, right, this will increase. So this is actually what happened. And having to say this, right, look at the line over here. See, it's more consistent. So there is an advantage of placing a dual fan. But the thing is, the compromise on the noise. Because a single fan itself is very silent. It did hum. So when you place another fan to it, right, it will hum even louder. Now, this is the dual fan that is clipped onto this air cooler. I just want to show you and to let you listen to the noise during at idle and at load. Now, having said this, right, be mindful that I can only do this because I have 2 units of the air cooler, as there are no additional clip comes with it. And probably this might be a suggestion to Montech to have additional clip comes with the air cooler. So in the event if end users, right, would like to purchase an additional E28 fan, right, they can just clip to it. If not, they will have to find ways and means to tie the fan to the air cooler. But before I show you how it sounds like, look at the diffusion on the ARGB. With this top over here, right, it's a transparent kind of I would say screen, whereby the ARGB fan, right, when it shows, right, or shines, right, it will go through here. So especially when you place this in the case, right, this will be very nice. And just to show you how the ARGB effect is, on the fan itself, take a look, it's very vibrant, it's very uniform, nice touch. It's just a simple ARGB, but they have done it in a very nice way. Now to show you and to illustrate on the noise, now this is my microphone and I'm gonna clip it over here. Away from the air cooler. This is an idle. You can't hear anything at all. But when I ramp it up, right, you will hear the noise. And here we go. Now, I believe you have heard a frequency. Okay, it's not a high frequency, it's just like a bumblebee buzzing near your ears, those kind of frequency. This is what happened when you place dual fan. But do remember, this is in an open bench. If you place this inside the case, right, you will not be hearing this. Probably a faint, so-called, it sounds like a coin whine. So this is actually the compromise that you will have if you place two fans. So it's up to you whether you want to place two fans or one fan. But anyway, as mentioned, if you intend to purchase another piece of E28 fan, right, these are sold separately, by the way, in future. If you intend to do this, right, you might want to find a way to, clip it to the air cooler. But it still depends on whether can you take the noise, as I've shown you. So it's either you configure this, right, to the PBO settings or to place dual fans. But overall, I should say that this air cooler, right, since it's actually a budget, right, it's quite amazing that I can cool down my 9800 X3D at 86 degrees Celsius. And my room temperature, right, see, as I told you, right now it's actually 29.9. It's around 30 to 31 degrees Celsius, which is amazing. My thoughts about this NX400 from Montech, a budget air cooler, I am impressed based on how they have constructed the air coolers. As the budget section that doesn't cost more than $30 MSRP, as you can see, the way they construct it, right, is very different from others. You might have some falls over here and there, but Montech have not done that. They have give you the value and having proper construction, as I show you the fans itself, the anti-rubber grommets, and how it's being constructed, inclusive of the 4 copper pipe that's attached to the cold plate, and how it's being mounted. Now, for the mounting point, Intel probably need some improvement regarding about the back plate. It's very clumsy for me, as you have seen. As for AMD, right, fantastic. Now, having said this, right, at the very beginning of my content, I did apologize to Montech as I hold back the content. Reason for this, right, it is my fault that I took this budget coolers to test on my high-end processor, which is the 7950X, 9950X, and the 9950X 3D. I thought that this budget cooler can perform, but it turned out that it doesn't. And no point for me to show you that content whereby the thermal results, right, is at 95 degrees Celsius and having processor to throttle. So that's the reason why I hold back. And thankfully, thanks to AMD Singapore came to my aid, they have loaned me this 9800X 3D, which is of a lower tier, or should I say mid tier. And you see it, the result proven. And my concept was quite true enough that this budget coolers, right, though they are selling at a $30 USD price point, but it still can tank a mid-tier processor. And of course, if you were to do PBO limits and the curve optimizer, right, not an issue. As you have witnessed, the temperature is at 86 degrees Celsius. And even if I were to place inside the case, right, it might increase to 88 degrees Celsius, but it's still okay, below the 90 degrees Celsius mark. And do bear in mind that my room temperature is 30 to 31 degrees Celsius. As I showed you earlier, it's 29.9, that's the coolest. So with this say, right, I would say that Montech have not chipped out on anything. The construction of the fan is good, the pin stack is great, the ARGB is fantastic, the mounting, except for the Intel, is rather clumsy. All this, in fact, they have placed into attention to details, whereby the cost is at $30 below USD, right? It's a good buy. Now, as for recommendation, I would recommend this air cooler, right, if you are using budget processor, things like the 7600X, 7700X, or even the 9000 series, which is the 9600X or the 9700X. So long as you do not breach up the TDP above 105, you will be safe side to use this air cooler. And with this say, right, Montech, as mentioned, they have not chipped out on the construction, the CNC cutting and such, especially on the cold plate. Take a look on the diagram right now, As you can see, the contact on the thermal paste, right, is fully covered the IHS, the dice section. Now with this say, right, as mentioned, right, they have done everything nicely. This is of value if you want to make use of this on a budget processor. With this say, I'd like to thank Montech to have provided this 2 unit for me to share with everyone. And to those of you who are actually new to my channel, welcome to my channel. If you like my content, do remember to subscribe and to click on the notification bell button. Don't forget to like this content. Click on the like button. And till the next time, take care, goodbye, see you.